All right, up next on the 80/20 of growth, we have Casey Armstrong. Casey is the Director of Marketing at BigCommerce and founder of FullStackMarketer.com. He's an experienced startup leader and marketer focused on customer acquisition and revenue growth, having helped grow companies like Mavenlink go from 5,000 to 500,000 customers, Pantheon double their user base while quadrupling their monthly revenue, and Watchmaster.com go from 0 to 7 figures in sales. Casey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell us, Casey, how did you first begin into the world of internet marketing?
Yes, so I actually started my professional career in real estate. It's actually a lot of fun. I started, I guess, in college in 2002, and it was great. The company I worked for, we did large-scale residential development, so it was we got to deal with large numbers and lots of people. And then I left that to travel the world, and I think it was when I was in this internet cafe over in Southeast Asia, and surrounded by quite a few people that I just recently met. There were probably 20 people in there, and I was the only person from the U.S. And I look around, and I was emailing my family, and I was the only person not on Facebook. This was like in 2008, I'd say. And to me, even at that time, I was like, I just thought of Facebook as this kind of, fun little social network tool, or whatever you want to call it, for college students in the U.S. And when I saw how everybody was using it, and I was the only non-American, or I was the only American in there, it just blew my mind on the reach that you could be able to have and the impact. And so when I got back from traveling, I really wanted to get into technology and be able to have that kind of impact. And I started working with my cousin Taylor Miles. I joined his agency, and he really taught me a lot of what I learned early on. And then that's when we were working with Mavenlink, and in a very competitive space, and it was really feast or famine. Either figure out how to grow this thing, or it dies. And so it was really and it was a lot of fun, and it's just diving headfirst in that. And I think what's very cool with online marketing, or marketing in general today, is you get to really combine a lot of the soft and hard skills, where things such as understanding humans and psychology are extremely important. Storytelling from like the more soft side, and then on the hard, the hard skills from number crunching and really using math and data to help drive a lot of your decisions, and how we have the opportunity to kind of blend those together.
That's great. So now, as somebody's trying to kind of think about and learn more about growth marketing, what would you say are kind of the elementary basic building blocks of becoming a growth marketer?
So I get similar questions sometimes when people ask about, I guess, like full stack marketing. And I think there, like I mentioned before, psychology and storytelling, no matter what you're focusing on, you need to understand those types of components. And it's just understanding people at the end of the day. It's so easy for us to just look at, like, Google Analytics or Mixpanel or whatever, data tracking you're using, and just equate everybody to a number, like a user ID. But at the end of the day, it's a person on the other end. And so it's understanding how, and people are relatively basic. And so it's really understanding what motivates and drives people, and also, like, with your product, and then also with your product as well, like what is the true job of your product. And so, I won't try to paraphrase anything Clayton Christensen says, but if you dive into a lot of his work and really understanding what your product does for somebody, and really understanding who your customers are, it all starts with that. And then in regards to what skills you should master first, I think it's one, understanding what you think is best to grow the product, whether that's SaaS or a physical good or digital product or something else. What channels do you think there are that will help drive growth there? and also what you think blends best with your skill sets. Maybe you are a numbers person. Maybe you're a great writer. Maybe you're very strong at design or development, and then really doubling down on what you're already good at.
Okay, so let's maybe put a little bit of flesh onto when you're talking about understanding the psychology of your audience. So when you were doing work with Mavnly, talk to us a little bit about how you're able to really understand the psychology of those users to help them grow from 5,000 to 500,000 users.
So I'm glad you actually started with them, because I don't think I had that skill set at that time. And so that's what made it tough. We were really trying to we're like, project management, okay, anybody who's doing work needs project management, so everybody's our customer. And like, that's the easiest way to like, not fail necessarily, but kind of spin your wheels and go in every direction. So something that actually Taylor kicked off was, he saw an opportunity in like the Google Apps Marketplace. And so as a team, we really beyond double down. Like we went hardcore at that space, because we're like, okay, these are people that, and this was Google Apps in like 2009 or 2010. So people that were using companies that were using Google Apps at that time were a bit more, I guess, technologically savvy than others. And so that was something we used to kind of pre-vet the people. So introducing online project management at the time it wasn't innovative, but it required some tech chops, or the openness. I guess you were like kind of an early adopter. And so if you're using Google Apps as well, it was kind of a signal that you'd be open to using something like this. So that helped a lot. With PaleoHacks, it's something that my partner there, Patrick Vlaskovitz, and I really focused on a lot, was what is the real job of like of what we're putting out there. There was, so PaleoHacks, people aren't familiar with there. It's, as you would guess, in the paleo and health and wellness space. There are kind of two main components of the site that we'd use to acquire and attract customers, and that was the community. It was very much like a Stack Overflow or Stack Exchange website, and the other part was the blog. And so, like, from the community point of view, it was a lot of like our job. Like, of course, we wanted from an SEO point of view, it was a monster. It was user-generated content. It was a gift that kept on giving. But what was the goal of our community? And that's for others to find like-minded people, whether they're all in Sydney, Australia, or Los Angeles, or just around the world. They didn't even want to meet them in person, and really bringing like a community together there. And like from the blog point of view, we're creating recipes, but really what's a recipe doing? And a lot of times it was kind of providing this way for our readers to, signal to, their friends or neighbors or whatnot, that they were coming up with the latest and greatest healthy ways to feed their kid, or, oh yeah, you like bacon, everybody likes bacon. Well, check out this, bacon wrapped jalapeno infused something or another. So it was, it was more than just a recipe. It was kind of like arming them with a way to, it was giving them like a way to create status within their group, whether that's their, the fellow moms and dads in their neighborhood, or the people at their CrossFit gym.
Yeah, and I can definitely see how that being valuable for somebody who really want to be a part of the PaleoHacks community, because they would really want to connect with fellow like-minded people. But then also, you sound like you started also figuring out the psychology of what would also get them to then start sharing a lot of content with other people too.
Mm-hmm. And another big thing too is anytime you can pick I don't think competitor is the right word here, but you can kind of pit two things against each other. And so, like with paleo, because it's like eat meat, eat real food, and eat bacon, and obviously other things. But it's so easy to kind of like had a perfect, kind of like competitor with like the vegans, who are also very, very passionate about what they're doing, and I have nothing against them at all. Like my wife often goes through phases of being a vegan. I don't help the cause because I like meat as well, but it's so easy just to be like to pit them against each other, and that helps actually both communities, because then it drives even they become even more loyal and more passionate over what you're trying to do, and that's a tough thing in the software space. But some companies do end up doing that very well. It's just finding out kind of like what's your niche there, or what's your spin in that world. But that definitely helped us a lot too, because we knew, like for instance, we grew a lot on Facebook before Facebook started like hammering us from an organic point of view, and the engagement and the back and forth that we would get from people whenever we would post things around paleo versus vegan was out of control. And then that would drive a lot of other people coming from other groups that would jump on one side or the other. We didn't really care. It was just bringing more attention to everything.
Right. So now, as you began doing work with Watchmaster, which is a luxury watch e-commerce store, you're able to help them generate a 7-figure monthly revenue within 4 months. Tell us a little bit about that. What was it that really helped you be able to figure out the piece that was going to really start helping them to grow, and then that did so well within those 4 months?
So as always, that was well beyond me. That was very much a team effort. Very, 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 very much so. But there, I mean, that was to be honest, I think it was. Let's see. I can only share so much there. There were definitely like growth hacking going on there, but it was very much it was I'd say less the soft skills and very much the hard skills. We were going hardcore over a lot of different paid channels, and then it's really just diving into the data there, figuring out what is and isn't working. We're also selling across multiple countries, so all the countries operate differently. So from bidding to the pricing of the products, to a lot of times salespeople be involved, so tying everything to like the final conversion was difficult. And then how can we move extremely fast with what we're testing and increasing the speed of the feedback loop. So that was very much that was much more on the hard skills side of things.
Okay, so then whether it's with Watchmaster, Mavenlink, or any of the other clients that you have worked with, how do you go about deciding between all the different channels of which ones do you think will be good to start pursuing and then really going hard after?
So I'd say, and we're doing the same now with, or it depends on where the company is. If it's brand new, you really need to pick, let's say, 1 or 2 to start testing early on. Everybody wants to test everything under the sun, but it might be one person doing it all. I've been in that situation. Now I'm at BigCommerce, which is a much more mature company that have not just individuals but teams for each of the different marketing segments, which is very cool to see. But I'd say regardless, it's if you already are doing something, trying to find what's working and doubling down there. It's much easier to go, I think, from to gain traction on something that you've already started than to just try to start from scratch. And then if nothing's working, then you probably have a bigger issue. If you're starting from scratch, it's trying to figure out, like, based on your skill set or the people that where can you get some type of competitive advantage. So maybe you're joining a company that's kind of new in like the developer tool space. Do you know some influencers in the space, or maybe like a specific programming language that you can start trying to get some feedback on and testing opportunities there? And of course, to like zoom even further back, talking to your customers, of course, and really understanding the pains that they're going through, or why they are even looking at your product, or how they even chose it versus everything else, and like is it helping, and like what exactly is the role or the job that it's serving.
Okay, awesome. And then as you are looking at all of those different opportunities and such, and you start working on a lot of those, what have you noticed have been some of the biggest waste of time that a lot of people who are pursuing those different channels, what are some of the biggest wastes of time that they have when they're trying to focus on and really trying to grow their business?
Social media. I'm kind of joking, kind of not. It's it's hard for everybody, but it's I think kind of removing yourself from what's your idea and what's somebody else's idea, and relying on kind of like what the data tells you to make the informed decisions. It's not like, oh, Casey said this and Jason said that, so since I said it, I only want my thing to be right. It's like, well, it's, you have to enjoy being wrong. Like if you're A/B testing a couple things, because you're like, well, I gave it my best, which is a phrase that I hate, but this is what I thought would work better than anything else. Jason thought this would work, as well, and he's a smart guy. And guess what? Like his actually was even better. Perfect. He raised the bar. Now, how can we try to, he and I are going to throw out multiple options again and try to beat that one. And then again, to kind of zoom out from there too, is making sure your analytics are in place at the beginning. So many companies I've worked with and seen, and this is a constant for pretty much, all companies, is you'll be making these decisions based on improper data. And so this company that will remain nameless that I worked with a couple of years ago, very, very, very smart group of very, very, very smart team. One of the smartest teams I've ever worked with. And they were spending a good amount on AdWords, but their analytics were all broken. And so a lot of, and they were ready just to turn it all off. And, and this is right before I just started working with them. And, intuitively, I was like, well, I don't know if that's the right way. I think some of these are working. I can't tell you why. Let's dig in a little deeper. And what it was is their tracking was broken between the sign up and the conversion process. And so it looked like everything was attributed to other channels. They were also double counting a lot of traffic. And so it's making sure all of those things are in place. It's kind of hard because you just want to move fast and see the pretty numbers of, new customers and new traffic. But if you don't get that stuff in place at the beginning, every decision you make after is just going to be based off improper data. And then you're just going to be, kind of spinning your wheels and not really necessarily moving forward. You might luck your way in there, or you might still move things forward, but not necessarily as effectively or efficiently as before.
So it sounds like one of the critical first pieces is really just having your analytics set up so that way you're making sure that you're making wise decisions based off of the information that you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, and whether you start off with something like GA and making sure you're tracking events and goals properly, and then maybe, and this always depends on the skill set and bandwidth of your team. But then it's do you try something like Mixpanel? Which you have to modify to get multi-touch attribution, but something like that, there are so many channels, plus throw in like mobile, which breaks all the time from like an attribution point of view. It falls off so many times. It falls into GA's like direct bucket, which is kind of like a catch-all for everything, and people coming in on different devices, and so attribution is tough. Even if you nail it, knock it out of the park with your analytics setup, it's still very tough to tie everything together. But if you can, at least make sure your analytics implementation is properly in place, test it over and over again, make sure all the events and your goals are firing. At least that gives you a strong place to move forward, and you can rely on that data.
Okay, and do you have like maybe a good resource for people to check out to really learn how to make sure that their analytics is set up well?
Not that I can think of. It's funny, I actually sent a colleague of mine today a link to a Luna Metrics post around some interesting analytics insights. They seem to have a lot of good content, but not necessarily a specific one that I can think of right now.
Okay. And then as people are they're looking at trying to, um, you know, they're doing a lot of the different stuff, and say they're pursuing a lot of things with growth. What are some of the things that really is going to help move the needle? How can they really start prioritizing the different growth tactics that are really going to help them get, say, 80% of the results, and instead of focusing on the stuff that isn't really necessarily going to move the needle?
Depends. It's myself included. It's oftentimes, some of the things that will move the needle are hard, or they feel like grunt work, but you need to be, willing to do that. I've seen CEOs that I've worked with. I love it when I see it. They'll close the door and they'll start pouring through SQL exports or Excel and really trying to dive into the data. And, you think that's only for, entry-level analysts out of college or something, but it's, willing to do the grunt work to get the stuff done is always a necessity. And then, this kind of goes back to my point about analytics, tying things as best as you can to, to the data, but then so it's, you're tracking, like, what is your core KPI? Is that MRR? Is that, units sold, because you only sell like one item? Like with PaleoHacks, we got it down to, we knew we were getting, X dollars per month in the first month from every email we got. And so we were really trying to like drastically increase our email acquisition. And so what are the triggers that are driving, more emails per month? And then as we do that, are we getting the right people? Because then is that tying to increased revenue per month? And then beyond that was kind of like the follow-up revenue. How much are we making on them down the road?
Okay. And one last question, Casey. This is kind of a fun one I like to end on. So what is something related to growth marketing or even internet marketing that you believe to be true, you think most do not?
That's a good one. What do you think?
Yeah, so one thing that I'd say that I believe to be true that most do not is that it's beneficial to actually start to learn all the different types of marketing to at least get a good basic understanding and foundation for all of them. But you want to really start specializing in a couple of the different channels that you notice that you do really well. So for example, for myself, I do really well in influencer marketing and building those kinds of relationships. I've started to see some good results from doing social media. And so as I've started to do that, I spend more time in that. And, but, I look at, say, somebody else, say like, people, say like Casper, I've seen them do billboards and stuff like that. I see certain businesses do other types of marketing that I don't have, as good of an experience. And it's I think a mix of just the people that you have on the team, plus a little bit of the product that really makes the difference in getting results with marketing.
Cool. So I agree there. And I think, so I'll answer a different question that you didn't ask, but what is something that I think will help people, and it kind of relates to what you said. It's not discounting other channels. So, it's kind of like TV's not dead, radio's not dead, billboards aren't dead, print ads are not dead. They're different. Banner ads are not dead. SEO is not dead. They're evolving, and oftentimes there's opportunity there too. So I think one of the most important things you can do, and I know I did this at the beginning, and it's something that I try to do as much as I can, but is how can you kind of like short your education process? How can you expedite your learning? And so the beauty of the internet is it's so easy to connect to people. Like, you and I have not met in person, but we've spoken quite a few times over Hangout or Skype or a million other different devices, or through email or Slack. And how can you, there's so many awesome people out there that are willing to help some. And so obviously before you reach out to anybody, figure out like, how can you possibly help them? The people that are doing well, it's, they're busy people, work, family, friends, everything else. But is trying to like learn from them. And then if you can't connect with them directly, start digging into the products or projects that they're working on. I know early on for me, when Kissmetrics was blowing up and a handful of other sites, I started, I'd sign up for all of their newsletters, or HubSpot early on, sign up for all, like everywhere that they have. I'd start diving through their website, the different calls to action, what are the different funnels that they're using. And then really analyzing what people are doing there, I think is extremely beneficial. And also another thing that's very helpful, I think this helped me a lot when I kind of moved from working mostly with software companies to the Paleo Hacks project, or even book marketing, is you can kind of take these learnings from, it's kind of like all like, let's bucket all under online marketing, but they're kind of different verticals or different types of products. And then you can take those learnings and apply them there. So people joke, direct marketers or internet marketers are really good at making money but not scaling. And then online marketers or startup marketers are very good at scaling but not making money. And so, how can you take the learnings from both of them and combine them together? Like sign up for like the skeeziest black hat email list you can find, and I guarantee you'll learn some interesting things that you can try.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Casey. You provided us with a lot of great insight today. If somebody wants to learn more about you, what is the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, Twitter, KCA, CASEYA, or you can use your growth hacking to find my email address. It's quite easy and public, but find me at BigCommerce or Full Stack Marketer, and feel free to reach out. But thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Casey.
Take care, Jason.